The weekend had started off just as planned, a casual night at a local bar with friends. The place was packed for music night, a lively crowd swaying to the rhythm of a local band. The air smelled of spilled beer and fried appetizers, and laughter echoed over the bass line. It wasn't a fancy spot, but it had its charm, and most importantly, it was our go-to for unwinding. I had my phone in my back pocket all evening, using it intermittently to check the time or snap candid photos of my friends. At some point, amidst the laughter and the music, I reached for it again, but it was gone. Panic set in immediately. My friends and I turned the booth upside down. We scoured the sticky floor, peeked under tables, even asked the bartender if someone had turned it in. Nothing. My phone had vanished, as if swallowed by the chaos of the night. One of my friends suggested calling it, which seemed like the most logical step. I borrowed another phone, dialed my number, and pressed the speaker button. The familiar ringing tone buzzed, followed by a click as someone picked up. "Hello?" I asked, but what came through wasn't a greeting. It was heavy breathing, slow, deliberate, and far too close to the microphone. "Who is this?" I demanded, my voice rising above the noise of the bar. The response was a quick click as the line went dead. My friends exchanged uneasy glances. "Maybe someone found it and was messing around," one suggested, though they didn't sound convinced. I tried calling again, but now it went straight to voicemail. The pit in my stomach grew heavier. Who had my phone? And why had they answered like that? After an hour of fruitless searching and repeated attempts to call, I gave up. The night's mood had soured. My friends tried to lighten things up, but my thoughts were elsewhere, spiraling into worst-case scenarios. When I got home, it was well past midnight. I unlocked the front door, flipped on the lights, and tossed my bag onto the couch. I sighed, exhausted from the fruitless search, and decided to check one last time in case I'd somehow missed the phone earlier. I stepped into my bedroom, and there it was. My phone, lying neatly on my nightstand, exactly where I remembered leaving it before heading out. For a moment, I just stared. I could feel my pulse in my ears, a slow, steady thump that quickened as the implications sank in. How could I have called my own phone if it was here all along? And who had answered? I picked it up cautiously, my hand trembling slightly. The screen lit up, displaying the lock screen photo I had taken weeks ago. Everything seemed normal. No missed calls, no recent messages. But as I scrolled through the call log, my stomach flipped. There it was, my own number, listed as an outgoing call from earlier that night. The timestamp confirmed it had been dialed from this very phone, at the same moment I had used my friend's phone to make the call. I felt a chill creep up my spine. I locked the phone and placed it back on the nightstand, suddenly hyper-aware of how quiet the house was. I checked the locks on the doors and windows, scanning for any signs of a break-in. Nothing was out of place. Everything was exactly as I'd left it, except for the phone. Sleep didn't come easily that night. Every creak of the house, every rustle of leaves outside, sent a jolt of adrenaline through me. I couldn't shake the feeling that someone, or something, had been in my space, had touched something as personal as my phone, and had left without a trace. The next day, I told my friends about the strange discovery. Their reactions ranged from skepticism to outright disbelief. One joked about paranormal activity. Another suggested I must have been drunk and forgotten where I'd put it. But I knew what I'd experienced. To this day, I don't have an explanation. I've run through every possibility. A technical glitch, a prank, or something worse, but none of them fit. The only thing I'm certain of is this. That night, something didn't make sense. And whatever it was, it left me with an unease I still can't shake. Some mysteries, it seems, are better left unsolved. The summer of 2007 was supposed to be my big adventure. A solo road trip across states, just me, my car, and the open road. I was 20, freshly licensed, and eager to prove to myself I could handle it. The first few days were uneventful, full of scenic views and long stretches of highway. Then came the night I stopped at a gas station in the middle of nowhere. It was past midnight when I pulled into the station. The lights buzzed faintly, casting a dim glow on the empty lot. I was low on fuel and tired, so I decided to make it quick. As I started pumping gas, I noticed a black pickup truck pulling in, parking at the far end of the lot. A man stepped out, maybe in his early 40s. He was short, stocky, and moved with a kind of deliberate confidence that instantly put me on edge. He didn't head to the pump or the convenience store. Instead, he leaned against his truck, his eyes locked on me. I told myself it was nothing, just paranoia from being alone at night. But then he began walking toward me. "Need some help?" he asked, his voice rough but friendly on the surface. "No, I'm good," I replied, forcing a polite smile and keeping my tone neutral. He didn't leave. Instead, he stood too close, watching me with a look that felt invasive. "Where you headed?" he asked. I ignored him, finishing up with the pump and quickly replacing the nozzle. As I turned to get into my car, his demeanor changed. "Hey, I'm talking to you," he snapped, his voice rising. I muttered an excuse about being in a hurry and got into my car, locking the doors immediately. He stood there for a moment, glaring before storming back to his truck. Relieved, I started the engine and pulled onto the highway, glancing in the rearview mirror. My stomach sank. The black pickup truck was following me. At first, I thought it might just be a coincidence, but every time I switched lanes or took an exit, he mirrored my movements. My hands gripped the wheel so tightly they ached. I remembered something my dad had taught me. Never go home if you think you're being followed. I veered onto a side road, hoping to lose him. He followed. Heart pounding, I called my friend, the one I was heading to see, and explained everything. She stayed on the line, keeping me calm as I sped through unfamiliar streets. I finally spotted her house and pulled into the driveway, honking furiously. Her porch light flicked on, and she ran out, phone in hand. The pickup truck slowed as it passed, its headlights briefly illuminating the man's face. Then it disappeared into the night. The police were called, but with no real evidence, there wasn't much they could do. I tried to put the incident behind me, chalking it up to a random creep. Years later, I saw a news report about a man named Adam Leroy Lane, the highway killer. He had been caught after a string of murders in the late 2000s, targeting women traveling alone. The description of his black pickup truck and his hunting grounds along highways sent chills down my spine. I'll never know for sure if it was him that night, but I'm haunted by the thought that I might have narrowly escaped becoming one of his victims.